Coach, thanks so much for joining us on the call today. If you could give us your thoughts on spring practice thus far and what you're looking to see as you take the field this Saturday.
Thank you for having me here. Can all you guys hear me clearly?
Sounds good on this end, Coach.
Okay, great. We've had a very productive spring. A lot more depth on this football team than we've had before. Just with some guys that we had maybe redshirted last year, or transfer here or there that's just ready to play football now. It's been a very physical spring. I think our defense has done a good job of making sure that they create the physicality of this football team. I think our little people have made us a tough football team. As we move forward, I think that offensively we've seen a guy, Gardner Minshew, that knows how to run the system. He has the system a year under his belt. So we've had a much better spring than we may have had last year, simply because we moved from the evaluation process to being able to go to the execution process. And I think that's what our spring has been about, a little bit better execution than we had last year.
We'll take questions for Coach Montgomery. Please star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. Then the operator will introduce you.
And we'll take our first question from Al Myatt with Bonesville.net.
Morning, Coach Montgomery.
How are you?
Doing good. Hope you are.
I'm doing well, Al.
Coach, the spring game Saturday, what are you looking for, and what kind of format? Will it be similar to last year, or are you going to have more depth and allow more flexibility there?
No, it'll be very, very similar to last year. There'll be certain people that will not participate in the game from an injury standpoint. So we're going to keep it very similar to the way that it was last year. And what I'm trying to get out of the game is just to make sure that some of the execution that we've seen in practice to this point, we can continue it at Bagwell Field and Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium in front of some great fans. So we've had some guys that really show up for us, and we want to make sure we can consistently show up, especially in the big time. And then the last part of it, we want to make sure that we get out of this scrimmage in the kind of health that we're in right now, which isn't bad at all for what we've put our guys through over the last 14, 15 practices.
Coach, on the early signing proposal measure, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm for it. I've kind of always thought that it had a place for a lot of reasons. There's other things that I would like to see done, but the main reason is, you know, I think it makes everybody show their cards a little bit earlier than they have now. I mean, we've gotten to a point now where I like to say that I'm not sure if certain kids understand if they're offered or if they're not offered. And, you know, it clouds the mind just a little bit, especially in the September, October, November area. You got kids taking visits to places that, you know, they do not truly have an offer from. And I think it's going to give us a chance to also get this, to find out, you know, what's on the mind of the kids. You know, you can know by that time, by October, of what's really going on with the signing date coming only a couple months away. And, you know, the one thing that I would like to try to get added to it is, you know, as a head coach, and a lot of head coaches may not feel this way, I wouldn't mind being on the spring and being on the road in the spring maybe for, you know, a week or two, just to be able to get out and see some of these kids, because a lot of the times, depending on where your open date is, you're not going to be able to get out to as many kids as you could, where you have two open areas for recruiting right before they sign. So I think it's restricted some of the head coaches from being able to get out and see some of it. But I also think it's made people be a lot more transparent in the way that they offer kids and the way that the kids respond to those offers. For a while, there's been 100 offers going out in June and July, and they've kind of been floating all the way till December. And in January, you start kind of seeing kids left out in the middle of nowhere. I think this early signing period will give those kids a chance. If they do end up in the middle of nowhere, the recruitment will start again for them. And then for some of those schools that, you know, maybe thought they were in it with the kid, they'll know it a little bit better, and they'll be able to move to the second part of their recruiting.
Would it significantly change what you and your staff are doing, say, in January?
Yes, it will. And that all depends on the amount, the mass that we do sign in December. I think that it will, you know, then shift, and I understand they're thinking about it. In January, it would shift. I just don't have that January this year. which is why I'm a little bit, I feel, the way I do about going out in the spring a couple of weeks. But in January, it'll shift a little bit more to, 19, 20 kids, and our coaches will be able to get ahead a little bit more. And it'll just change the way you have to be in home visits in January. That's most of your January. I'm flying around from city to city to try to get a lunch and a dinner home visit with a kid, whereas if we can get a great portion of our class signed in that December period, then we'll get ahead for the next couple of classes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And next we'll move to Dan Tortora with WakeUpCallDT.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you today?
How are you, Dan? I'm doing well.
I'm doing well. To speak on what we've talked about him a lot, Zay Jones, and obviously him moving forward, what can you say about the wide receiver core right now? Some of those guys that have stepped up in the spring and kind of what you've been able to take away from maybe some leadership there.
Yeah, congratulations to Zay on all that he was able to do for us here in our community here. We have a strong receiver room. I think Jimmy Williams has had the best spring out of any of our players that we've had, whether that's offense, defense, or otherwise. He's had a very, very productive spring for us. Davon Grayson is back on the field, which has been another big-time boost for us. Just a tremendous playmaker, a lot of skill, speed, quickness, position flexibility. And, we're likely going to have Trayvon Brown back. He's a little injured right now, but we'll likely have Trayvon Brown back into the fold as well. And, DeAndre Ferrier has been great for us this spring. Also, Quade Johnson has been great for us this spring. So we got a lot of bodies, and Terrell Green and some other guys. We got a lot of guys that have played some football and had some success on the field. And now that Zay's gone, they've seen a lot more balls come their way. So it's a lot of competition in the room. But as strong as we were last year from a depth standpoint, we're going to find out who's going to become those playmakers that we need throughout the year.
And then as far as what you've been able to take away from the program, only being there for a short amount of time, just what you can say about the culture and the environment, and if it's shifting to a place where you're happy with it right now coming out of the spring.
Yeah, I think the best thing that we were able to do this year, we spent more time, coaching, football, and our culture was coached more as a system. Now that we have a system in place for culture, it's just great. We weren't we were force feeding just culture. Now what we've done is we moved that, those beliefs to a plan, from a plan to a system. And now that the system is in place, that part is working and running on all cylinders. And now the part of execution has been kind of the main part of what we've been able to coach. So both sides of the ball understand our system a lot better. Our kids understand our culture system a lot better. We're really, really comfortable with where we are now from a culture standpoint. That's not to say that we won't have things that happen and occur, but we do know how to handle those things from a football team standpoint, not from a coaching standpoint, but from a locker room standpoint. When something happens and it is not the way that I want it, I don't even have to say a word right now because the system will take care of it.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take one more for Coach Montgomery, please.
And we'll hear from Shannon Green with Orlando Sentinel.
Good morning, Coach Montgomery. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. The question I was going to ask has actually already been asked about the early signing period, but I do want to add this to the equation. You had some interesting thoughts on recruiting, and I would just like to hear more about what are some of the changes that you would like to see to the recruiting process to really enhance it on behalf of coaches?
Well, one of the things that you have to understand about this process is that you have to be able to gather as much information as you can for some of the student athletes that we're going out to recruit. When our coaches are out in the spring, and I know that it's hard on the academic process for the kids, but when we're out in the spring, our assistants are out in the spring, they basically don't even get to see the kids. They may, a kid may be in a gym class and a kid comes over and shakes his hand and then you move on. You can't spend very much time with them. So now that this process has been moved up, and I'm not, trying to get, take all the time from kids out of their classes, but now the process has been moved up in December, And with as little as we're able to go out during the season, now our coaches are going to have to make some of those decisions that they were able to go out in December or in December and January and bring that information back to me, and I get out in January to go see some of these kids. They're going to have to make those decisions a lot earlier with a lot less information from dealing with the kid. So, at this point in time, I'd like for us to be able to do a little bit more than shake some of the kids' hands in some kind of a modified version of what's happening in the later signing period. And I just would like to have as much information as we possibly can gain. And I think that our coaches will, these men are the assistants out there. Most of them are men of integrity. If they give a certain level of standards, and they'll abide by it, and we'll try to all be inside of it. But these are the opportunities for these young men to be interviewed, and really not interviewed in the depth of it, but you get a chance, 30 seconds, to make a good impression on someone, and I think that's important.
Do you feel like you guys get enough time? It sounds like what you're saying is that maybe you guys aren't getting enough time to really recruit. Is that right?
Well, I don't think it's about the time to recruit. I think that when you're in a school, you're going to spend a certain amount of time anyway, in that school. I just think that, if we are given a certain set of standards, and this is what you can do with a young man, you can shake his hand, introduce yourself, he can introduce himself, he can say, Coach, I need to get back to class now. It's very nice. Like, I'm very interested in you guys, or I'm not interested, and you can shake his hand, he can go back to class. That's a lot different than a head coach, you're with a head coach in the gym pointing over to a kid and saying that's the kid, and you say, okay, that's the kid, and the kid maybe shake your hand, maybe not shake your hand. You really don't know if he's interested or not, so you really don't know if you need to extend an offer or not. It will also slow down some of these teams from just throwing out multiple offers for kids they haven't even been in front of.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Coach, we thank you for the time this morning. Best of luck with your spring game this Saturday, and we'll look forward to reconnecting again during the course of the summer.